Testing, testing, 1, 2. Testing, testing, 1, 2. This has become my favorite spot to sit for a good little minute. So I'm just gonna keep sitting on the floor, right? I decided to look at the 6888. It's about 800, and this is the synopsis. 855 joined the war effort to address a 3-year mail bagging. Despite discrimination and war-torn conditions, they soared over 17 million pieces of mail ahead of schedule. All right. Um, this has Kerry Washington playing Major Charity, Ebony Obsidian playing Lena Derricott, Sarah Jeffrey, Dolores Washington, Oprah Winfrey, Mary McLeod, Susan Sarandon, Eleanor Roosevelt, Greg Sulkin, Abram David, and we're going to talk about Abram. Shanice Williams, Johnny May, Donna Bisco, Emma Derricott, Dean Norris, General Halt, and then so much more, right? So many more. Oh, my favorite was Shanice Williams. I loved her character, and her face card was always valid. I loved her, honestly. And I know it's like controversial because the stereotype that she was playing is like the big black, ratchet woman, it's that particular type of thing, right? Because a lot of the characters that they are playing does come off very, I wouldn't say outdated because it is somewhat of a period piece or it is taking place in the past, of course. So there were certain things that they said, certain things that they did. While so how did I see this movie? I was supposed to be seeing this movie a couple of weeks ago. Because I was like, or when it came out, like, I was like, okay, right when it freshly comes out, I'm going to look at this movie, basically. But then I was like, no, I kept postponing it. I was doing other stuff. And then I decided for some reason I ate a lot of, barbecue. This is Mississippi. I was eating some quarter legs and I was eating some ribs and I had me, a little bit of other stuff on the side. And so I was kind of ready to go to sleep. I was like, my stomach was stomaching. I was like, it's time to go to sleep. And I went to sleep earlier than I usually do at like 8 something, 9 something, right? And so I was like, oh, I can't go to sleep. I talked to myself for like a good 30 minutes. I was like, you know what? I think I could look at the 6888. Let me look at this 2 hour and 7 minute film because I'm not going to go to sleep anytime soon. And so, that's how that worked. I'm going to go into some of the history that I found because there was one dynamic that was annoying the hell out of me. Let me see. Derek, I did say in France. The girls are eating in the photo. Where is it? Where is it? It was something I saw where I was like, huh? Erica served as a nurse at the base hospital. They didn't have the ability to give me the courses, she explained, but the hospital needed nurses. She treated airmen, crews, and their families, never seen combat wounded. Promoted to corporal, she also worked at the motor pool, keeping track of weekly B-25 bomber fuel levels and reporting how much fuel student pilots use. When she was not working her 2 jobs, she and her fellow wife marched smartly in the weekly bomber pilot graduations. For entertainment, famous singers like Lena Horne and Arthur Prysock visited the base. They were talented people, said Derricott. Love that. Love that. Especially Lena Horne. I love Lena Horne. One night, Derricott accompanied 3 black female officers to the base theater to enjoy a movie. One of the officers was a Lieutenant Clark. The chief walked. They were waiting for the movie to start when a military policeman approached and said, ladies, you are not supposed to sit there. Lieutenant Clark asked, what do you mean? These are officers' seats. I am an officer. The MP replied, what I mean to say is colored people are supposed to sit on the on that stand. And enraged, Clark shot back, I want to talk to the colonel in charge. Show me where the phone is, and I'd like to speak to him on the phone. When she finally got Colonel Brandel on the line, she told him, me and my girls have been highly insulted. 3 of us here are officers. The colonel responded with silence. If you're going to treat us like second-hand citizens, Clark continued, I'll pull my unit out of here. We came here to help, and we expect to be respected. Clark hung up the phone, and the woman marched out of the theater. Now, of course, in the movie, it's different. In the movie, Kerry Washington's character, she has the whole thing. One of the female soldiers, Shanice Williams, right? Johnny May. Love her. She gets up because she's country. She's about it. She was like, I'm about to. And then of course Kerry Washington's character, Major Charity. She was like, don't do too much. Basically, I'm just paraphrasing. She was like, don't do too much. They're very old school thinking of we have to maintain, we have to keep in order. We can't just fly off the handle with these racist white people. Which yes, that is something that a lot of people thought back in the day. Of course, a lot of people was like her, like, I'm ready to fight, but, different strokes, different folks, a time and a place, that kind of thing. And so basically they had that whole dynamic and they left the theater and then we see Kerry Washington's character, we see her, and she basically is talking to, the colonel. I don't know why I can't say that word, the colonel. But basically, she says, basically the same thing that they're saying here in the article. And I've been disrespected. He needs to be court-martialed. Da 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 da. I got called the N-word. I got mistreated. My soldiers got mistreated. And basically, he was like, "Are you done?" And then he was like, "Now you got you got orders to go overseas, right? You got orders to go to Europe. You got actual something to do." And then Kerry Washington's character was like, "Finally, some real fucking food," right? That was kind of how that scene played out. But in real life, the next day, the colonel announced that the theater would no longer be segregated, nor would the bowling alley and cafeteria. Clark's stand had a ripple effect she could not have foreseen. Within a year, African-American pilot candidates arrived from Fort Hatua, Arizona, to train on B-25s. Not long after the theater incident, Derricott met an African-American drill sergeant named Hugh Thaddeus Bell. In the post-exchange, along with his drill sergeant duties, Bell led the bass band and served as the bass bowling reveille. Oh my god, these names. What does these mean? Okay, Bell led the bass band and served as the bass bowler blowing reveille at the sunrise. Okay, I know what that means. And taps at sunset, right? He was the poster boy of the bass, recalled Derricott. He asked for her to the movies and the two started dating. We became well known on the post, she said. 6 months later, 6 months later, he asked her to marry him. It was quite a wedding, said Derricott. After almost a year, Douglas Derricott signed up for overseas duty. Mail for the troops in Europe was not getting delivered, and the Army decided its African-American women would do the job. The competition was stiff. Women were evaluated for good temperament and character. Once chosen, Derricott endured 8 weeks of training with other candidates, marching, putting on gas masks in a room filled with tear gas, climbing rope ladders, and practicing abandoned ship drills. About a month after training, she got the call. Of course, I didn't know that we were going to be called overseas that soon, she said. Derricott said goodbye to her husband, who was very understanding. He knew that when we got married, he or I would go where we were told. Derricott and the other Walks were shipped directly to New York Harbor, where they boarded the French luxury liner SSLED France, bound for Europe in late January 1945. Now, see, okay, I'm going to stop right there. So, like I said that in Hollywood films, they take creative liberties, right? That's okay. That's fine. It's, not everything's going to be based on the true. It technically is based on a true story, but they have to take some deviations to make it interesting. The deviations that they took annoyed the fuck out of me. Now, I've said that there's been this kind of thing that I've seen in the commercials. I've seen it everywhere, right? I've seen other creators talk about it where there's this very consistent need to show interracial, and I've said that most of the times when we represent interracial, it is a white person and a person of color, not people of color with people of color, white people with this person. We don't expand what interracial means, and especially in the West, it's usually just a white person, and then we'll just pick a person of color to be with them, right? And that's supposed to be like this groundbreaking movement within diversity, even though they did that I don't know how many decades ago, right? And so a bit redundant to me, a little bit disingenuous in terms of supposed woke Hollywood. And so, when finding out that she was with Hugh Bell, Derricott, when finding out she was with Hugh Bell, and that was somebody that Lena was with way earlier than I expected, and that she volunteered to go to Europe to be able to give mail, I was kind of confused because so much of the film, I hate to be conspiratorial, and I hate to kind of dig too deep and kind of be a little bit pretentious about it, but a good amount of the film, I was actually starting to like her. I was starting to really like the other soldiers, the female soldiers. I was liking their personalities. Even though I said they were kind of caricatured or they were kind of wacky, I still liked them for what they were. I liked how they were being represented. And I was really wanting to know more about them. And all of a sudden, Lena goes through it. And it kind of made her look weak. It really made her look weak, like she couldn't handle it, right? And I guess what I'm trying to say is in this particular reality, Miss Mamas was handling it. In this particular reality, in the truth, she was getting things done. But in the film, she couldn't, she was helpless, is what I'm trying to say. In the film, she was on her last leg. In the film, she couldn't do it. And then, of course, every time she had a breakdown, this white man would appear in her vision and guide her to the promised land. Are you seeing my issue? Are you seeing my issue? Are you seeing my issue? Yes. The first time it happened, I forgot the other times it happened, but the big moment, right, when it was first appearing, right? Because we do flashbacks here and there, and I felt like, even though, again, this is real life, again, that was technically her, I guess you could say, her childhood sweetheart, so, but nothing was established enough, especially considering that it's 2 hours, nothing was established enough where I felt connected to this character. I'm like, he came and he went. Greg Sulkin plays Abram David. There he goes right there. And he's cute. He's cute. But Lena's true love, who enlisted to join the army, but he ended up dying on his first mission. Abram wrote a letter to Lena to encourage her to keep living her life and enjoy it without him. This said letter was among 17 million pieces of mail that the battalion needed to sort out. According to Kevin M. Himmel via Warfare History Network, the real-life Lena Derrickard King did fall in love with a Jewish boy named Abram Hyman David, but he also died during his first combat mission in San Pietro, Italy in December 1943 after his plane was shot down. Silken is best known for his role in Pretty Little Lies, So, right, okay, so, according to real life, she actually did fall in love with a Jewish boy, right? But he died his first mission in Italy, right? Okay, so that is real, and then they added some stuff extra. But my problem is again, Miss Lena, for her to be, a strong black woman, she was just going through it. And I understand we have moments where we going through it. We want the main character to have moments where she's getting through certain things. We want to have moments where it seems like she's human, right? Like she's not this idea of, how they like to treat black women, like, oh, she's this superhuman, she could do anything, right? But it was very strange to witness. It was very strange to witness because I kind of felt some type of way. I'm not going to lie to you. Because I was kind of like, why do we keep seeing this white man and he's guiding her? And what pissed me off even more, knowing the reality, knowing that she married this Hugh Bell, and that they basically was married way before, she even went to go get the mail. It's that creative choice that I'm kind of like, I don't like the propaganda of it, It's different from Tyler Perry's old film, The Family That Prays, because there was a whole that dynamic of, the white family, the black family, but that dynamic worked better because it just actually made sense from the beginning to the end. It wasn't necessarily based off of something that was real. It wasn't necessarily based off of a story that was like real, but a particular type of group of people in history. You can sit there and take certain dynamics from that, from soap operas and different types of movies, and it was just something that was taken from that particular type of genre, right? That particular type of drama. But when we're talking about this, when we're sitting there basing something off of something that is historical, it's very tricky to come up with something that is being honest to the actual people in their history while also taking creative liberties to make sure that you keep people interested, right? Now, mind you, this is a 2 hour and some change movie, and so, 7-minute movie, and so, Jay Reeves, Private Hugh Bell, the eventual husband of Lena Derrickard. In the movie, Private Bell instantly takes a liking to her when she arrives at Fort Oglethorpe, oh my God, these names, in Georgia in 1944. However, in real life, Hugh and Lena were married before Lena was deployed overseas for the fateful mission involving the delivery of the letters. Yes. And I was like, excuse me? I don't know. I'm still gagged about it because I do like that one scene where Hugh Bell, he basically, is waiting for her. She's crying about this man again. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I just didn't care. I've seen other people review it where it's like, I liked her character. I really did. I was starting to like her. I was starting to like, her development over the movie. But I'm like, why do we keep going to this man? I don't care. And I have to be weary because there's certain people in Hollywood who we all have our own agendas. We all have our own biases. We all have things that we want to uplift in our art, in our films, in our work. And so that's just something that is natural at being a human being. And I kind of was like, who was a part of this film? I know that Tyler Perry was the one that directed and wrote it. He had other people help him with writing, right? Which I will get to in terms of some of the scenes where I was kind of confused, right? Where I was like, that could have been gone back to the drawing board, but overall, I still loved it. When sitting here looking at, Hugh Bell's character, and he was grabbing her hand, and she was sitting there grabbing his, and she was sitting there crying over this man. I guess it was a good way to kind of get her to kind of get her to, I guess, I don't know, to show her grief. To me, it just seems insulting to the real life Lena. It just seems insulting to the real life Lena to me. And she probably, again, she was in the movie. She probably didn't see it that way. She probably loved the film. She was like, oh, this is amazing. This is great. She probably didn't even see it that way, right? And so this is just, just how I see it. Kerry Washington's character and Milana Jackson's character, the major and the captain, they were really good. I really liked their dynamic. I loved the scene where they was at the bar and they were talking about certain things. They were kind of reminiscing and kind of thinking about what they're doing to them and the different challenges that they have to face as black women. I just really enjoyed that. I enjoyed their dynamic. It felt natural. It didn't feel forced. There was a lot between them that felt really good in terms of how the film was going. And so I loved it, but at the same time, I was kind of like, if I'm being honest, the film is built off of these black soldiers giving letters to predominantly white families. They're going to Europe, which is predominantly white. We already have something set up where we have black people helping white people, is what I'm trying to say. We already have that set up, right? We get it. They're getting because I was like, aren't there black soldiers? When there black soldiers that went to Europe? But I say, okay, you know what? Maybe most of them are white, so I'm not going to get into that. But then I'm like, but don't they have black soldiers? And aren't they talking to black soldiers? But I say, you know what? It is what it is. I'm just going to move on. I'm going to move on, right? We saw this one lady. She was a reoccurring character, right? She was standing outside of Eleanor Roosevelt's home. And, we had the black server. He was like, it was so annoying. I get so tired of looking at the servitude of it all. But it's being honest to the time. And, she was like, oh, played by Susan Sarandon. I've seen her in a lot of different things. But she was like, oh, they had prosthetics. And I was like, how did Eleanor look? Her teeth was interesting. But she was like, yeah, what is she doing? Why is she out there? And then, the server was like, I'm going to go and see. You want me to go see? And she's like, yes, please. And then he was like, go get the umbrella. I'm going to go out there. I'm like, girl, okay. So they go out there, and then this lady who is a ginger, right? That's how I see it, the ginger. But you guys know what I'm talking about if you've seen the film, where you see her, and she's sitting there, right? And she's like, we I don't see any mail. This is something that's happening all around the country. And then Eleanor Roosevelt was like, that can't do, right? That won't do. And so it was an interesting thing, but I was kind of tired of it, right? If we're going to have a film where we have Lena's character and she's just so bent up. Oh, because the real Lena was really bent up. I'm not saying the real Lena was not, she wasn't affected by it. No, of course she was. But, this Lena, she couldn't make it, honey. She couldn't make it. This white man was her life. This white man saved her, gave her life, gave her everything. She can't make it without Abram. Oh, My God, every two steps she takes, Abram is there guiding her. When we were on the scene where they was on the ship, child, they was being dragged and they was being tossed like darn clothes in the darn washing machine. They was just they was just going through it, right? I remember that one scene, and I can't let it go. That's when I was kind of tired. I was tired. I was over it. I'm like, enough of her having a breakdown over this man. Enough, right? She's sitting here in the bathroom, and then they had Abram's character as a flashback hold her hands and hold her arms, and he's like, "It's gonna be okay." I said, "Am I being punked? Am I being punked? Have we not had enough?" And I know there's people gonna be like, "Oh, y'all complain about everything. Oh, you should be happy," And again, I still think the film is good. Hold on. I still think the film is good. I never said the film was bad. I never said the film didn't have any good quality to it. I never said I hated every single character. There was just certain dynamics I was tired of. I was really tired. I was really tired of that dynamic. Considering that the real Lena already had her black man. She already had her black man before she decided to go and serve. Right? So I'm tired of having to see that. And then we have all the black soldiers, and then they get mistreated and getting talked about. Then they get, and the racism kind of went to comical levels. I'm like, yes, racism in itself is comical. Racism in itself is idiotic, considering that you're mistreating somebody based off of the color of their skin, right? But I found it so tiresome because there were certain moments, right? There were certain moments, I'll say it like that, I'm going to say tiresome. There were certain moments where I was like, okay, when Kerry Washington character, and none of these actors did bad to me necessarily. None of these actors did bad because, the actor is doing what they do with the script, right? They can only do so much. They're given the script and they do what they have to do, right? And so everybody did what they had to do. I'm not saying the actors were bad. No, the actors were great. But there were certain moments where it just felt a little comical, right? When we first get introduced to Kerry Washington's character, Major Charity, she was sitting there saying, "You are Negro women," right? And then she said it again, "You are Negro women. You can't be like white women." Then she said, it was like, in the script, something that I have issues with in my own, shitty amateur films, trying to do everything all at once, right? Sometimes you could become redundant, right? And so that in itself, even though she delivered it really great, that in itself was kind of reflective of, I felt like some of the script when it comes to like the racism parts where it just felt a little bit, redundant. It's like, yes, Major Charity. Yes, we know that these are Negro women. Yes, we know that this is during an era where they're going to get mistreated. You don't have to tell us, right? When Lena was on the ground after they did that gas mask drill, and she was like, "You are making us look bad. They already think we're lazy. They already think we're not capable. And here you are on the ground. Stand up." Right? And I was like, oh my God. I understood that because the aspects of that, right? And then, of course, later when they're already in Europe and Lena, she has a whole breakdown. And she goes to the bathroom, and then you see that Major Charity, she's sitting there having a heart-to-heart with her. She's like, "I know you don't like me." I understand how we lead to certain moments like that because we already established it in the beginning. That's how film is done, right? But I still was kind of just like, oh, like, when some of the white people, they came in, right? There was this one little thing that they showed that I thought was really annoying, where General Halt, Dean, played by Dean Norris, I've seen him, he's really great. And I don't know the other guy, I don't really see him here, but there was another person that was right next to him. And during that time, basically when we had Kerry Washington's character and Milana Jackson's character, they came to Europe, right? They came before all of the soldiers were coming to Europe on the boat, right? So they came there and they were already stationed, and, they were talking to Dean Norris's character. And, he's basically being racist as hell, saying a whole bunch of bullshit. And that one white character was there. He was kind of just like looking at her, but he was like, "I don't approve." And it's like, no, don't do that. He's like, "I don't approve. I mean, but my hands are tied." You know, it reminds me of something I always reference when I think about like Black history, especially Black American history. When I think about what Martin Luther King said when he made that letter in Birmingham jail, Birmingham, Alabama, in jail. You know, and he was basically talking about, he was basically, you know, kind of throwing shots at the white congregation, the white Christian congregation, and he was like, "Correct me if I'm wrong, but my brothers in faith, my brothers and sisters in faith, you guys seem very hush mouth. You know, I'm paraphrasing, very hush mouth, very complacent when it comes to my fight. We are doing a peaceful protest, and you guys are still letting racists, you know, preach at your church. You're still sitting there being complacent and stuff. You're still not wanting to allow to speak out against this racism with us peacefully because half of your congregation is going to leave. Correct me if I'm wrong." And so it kind of reminds me of that, where it's like, or that kind of something that I went back to, because I was kind of like, yes, we get it. There's some good white people around, but I'm not living, right? You know, I guess it was just a subtle way of like, there's so much racism around every corner. It's like a subtle nod to, not all of them were bad, but we get it, right? I don't need to sit there and have him there sitting there giving like a little, you know, puppy eyes towards Kerry Washington's character. It does nothing in the grand scheme of things. You smiling when the soldiers are marching down does nothing in the grand scheme of things. I don't need your approval. At the end of the day, Army to serve her country, ultimately landing her spot on the 888th, right, Central Postal Directory Battalion. Woo! While she struggled with her training at first, Lena proved her value to the team by becoming part of the team that boosted the morale of the soldiers by successfully sorting out 17 million pieces of mail, essentially reopening lines of communication. And I remember, I think I was on the film where, or I was looking at it where I was looking at an article where they said that they actually got that out in 3 months. So I was like, purr. The real Lena Derricotte appeared in a Netflix movie before the credits roll, where she shared more information about her personal life, her experience working on the 688th Central Postal Directory Battalion. Aside from her time with the battalion, she also served as a nurse and as a fuel officer at Douglas Army Airfield in Arizona. Yeah. She was already established. She ended up marrying. I just can't get over that. She was already established. She was not sitting there falling apart over this white man. But anyway, she ended up marrying a fellow service member, Hugh T. Bell, during her time in service. Lena became a notable figure in honoring the 688's legacy during her later years in life. She died peacefully early this year on January 18, 2024, at the age of 100, period. She ate. And you know what? May she rest in peace. She made it to old age. She served. She gave looks. She gave service. She gave resilience. She did what she had to do. I'm gonna give the movie an 8 out of 10. Right? I would have gave it a 10 out of 10, but there was just certain things where I was just like, I didn't like some of the dialogue. I felt like it was kind of goofy. I didn't like some of the decisions of them being racist, overly racist. I did love that moment though when Kerry Washington was standing face to face with Dean Norris's character, and she was sitting there giving a performance as she always does. I love that, right? I love when Kerry Washington gives what she has to give, right? And so yeah, it was great. It was great. But I will always be looking out for those particular type of things in cinema and in TV shows. I will always be looking out on, you know, the consistency of constantly needing to have so much. Okay. But anyway, this was fun. Bye bye.